Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the rationalinvestor.co, soon to be.com daily brief. We got a pretty full lounge here this morning. Great to see everybody on the site. And I can see we're live on YouTube, so that's good to see. Got a bunch of people over there. Hello, YouTubers. Hello, Nathaniel. Nice to see you. We'll give you a big howdy. Welcome back to the Frivolity. And today is Wednesday. So that means we have Mr. Bear in the house. How you doing today, Mr. Bear?
I'm good. How are you, Mr. Brian?
Fantastic, as always, and always better whenever I hear your voice. And of course, it was interesting. I hadn't seen Mr. Bear on the site too much over the past few days as sort of the market's been gyrating, but I noticed that Mr. Bear really got active last night in the lounge. And we were bantering around and posting charts. And I find it hilarious that I literally drew up my squiggly line theory when I saw this trend line was in trouble before I went to bed. Like literally I did up that line like right there and just said, well, maybe if we dump, we're going to crap out here. And I wake up this morning and boom, bastards. So no mercy here. This, here's a great example where you didn't even get the opportunity to short neckline breakdowns. They just opened up the floodgates and just dumped her. But I would love to hear what Mr. Bear, what's on Mr. Bear's mind this morning. Of course, we're also seeing lots of stock market action to the downside as well. And I suppose we should take heart. This is basically the pros just came back from the Hamptons. And actually, I put out a fun chart. I was like, gee whiz, is there any correlation in the market these days? Hopefully, all of you guys can see that it seems to me that these markets are highly, highly correlated right now. And I put a tweet out to that effect. So I wonder, the pros are coming back from the Hamptons. They're getting settled in. Maybe they saw a juicy Bitcoin market there and decided to hit her. I suppose the only other thing that really sort of caught my attention, and I think it's a really good idea that we just keep an eye on it out of the corner of our eye, is we saw on the Bitcoin futures, the CME contracts and stuff, there was a fairly noticeable gap that needed to be filled in here. And you notice they came up and they very politely filled the gap in and then they dumped her. So I suppose the only thing that really surprises me out of all this was the fact that we just we have not hit Mountain Man level here. I would have bet dollars to donuts that we would have hit that before we dumped. But nonetheless, here we are. We have now officially dumped, and we've come back down into institutional buying interest area. So the question ultimately here is, do the pros actually step up and defend this market here? It's going to be a bit of a tough one. I suppose one could argue, a little bit of fractals that will fire now if we lose these lows. So this is a pretty important sort of area for Bitcoin itself. As this chart points out, we have backed up into a reload zone here. And I think very simply put, if we are still a bull, then we should see buyers step up and defend these lows and watch, that candle body low from today's bar probably going to be tested. I wouldn't be surprised if it is, but let's see how that bar closes. And then, what tomorrow's action brings. Do we take out whatever lows that we print here through today and confirm that fractal? And then, I think we have topped. But very interesting overnight action, a little bit more violent than I was expecting, but I'd love to hear how the bear interprets this price action. So, Mr. Bear, this is your cue. Where shall we start today's frivolities? And does Mr. Bear have a microphone? Sometimes Mr. Bear's got a microphone. He just doesn't realize he's muted.
Yeah, that was one of those exact instances where I'm speaking to myself.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Good to be here. It's been a while. Yesterday seems like forever, and now I'm back, so it's nice. I just wanted to know if you wanted to continue with the crypto segment, or if we wanted to start with our Regular.
Well, Brian's such an idiot. He's flying halfway across the moon. I apologize. Why don't you just start exactly where you think we should start, and we'll go from there.
Okay. I mean, I have no problem being flexible. We can always reschedule to equities later, but if you insist, we can.
It's all good. I mean, really, hopefully you've gotten to know me. I'm a bit of a seat of the pants kind of guy, so sometimes I jump off onto tangents. So sorry about that.
That's what makes it so fascinating here. I
All
love
right.
every minute of it. So then let's go to equities and then we'll come back and check out the frivolity in the crypto market. But I think there's a lot of frivolity happening here in stocks as well. Brian has his puts working in the market, and I think he's probably doing quite well here with the NASDAQ pulling back about 1.5% here. This thing's put in a funky looking top. I don't know if this thing's ready to dump, but it's certainly pulled back here into, everyone coming back to work, so to speak, and back to school day. This is testing sort of the neckline of this breakout here. And as far as any divergences are concerned or anything else that could bring us lower, you did have Willie quite over or just a little bit in the overbought area here. So it's not surprising that we're pulling back. Now, what we need to find out is this the real dump? And from my perspective, this is still coiling. So I really want to see this giant divergence here confirm. And maybe that's something we have to look at on the weekly. And I'm not sure that we have to worry about a massive dump just yet, but this is the beginnings of something coming in. And interestingly, we have this empire looking thing up here. So that's a signal for what was to come today. So as far as what I'm looking at NASDAQ wise, I don't have anything that I'm playing through the NASDAQ. Interestingly, I do have a short on Apple that I talked about last week that I was probably a little too early to, and I can get into that in a second. Brian, do you want to talk a little bit about your NASDAQ puts and your targets?
Yeah, I'm thinking that this is sort of like a shot across the bow, more like let's see, how would I express this? The big shenanigans today is all about the Senate hearings, and I was tweeting out the senators are getting serious about regulating this space, blah 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 blah. And so I got and I thought it was really interesting that here was this sort of tweet that I put out. I sort of cut and pasted this statement. I think this is sort of what's got the tech people. I'm not quite sure. I got to make sure I'm sharing the right screen here. We don't have Alex here, so I just got to make sure I'm on the right page. Hopefully that. And I have to make sure that I do the present to everyone thing as well. I got to make sure. Sorry about that, everybody. Remember, I'm not the best at this, but Alex will be back anyway. The point of the matter here is that these regulators, lawmakers, whatever you are, they this might be a lot of just sort of posturing. You never know with this, but the market hates when you hear about regulation. So I have a funny feeling a lot of that's to do with this, and I found it really interesting that the Google people they actually declined to even bother going and talking to the U.S. Congress here today. So it was more just sort of Twitter and Facebook, and I think Twitter got beat up a little bit here today as well. So I don't know whether this thing's ready to quote unquote break yet. I think this is more just sort of how do I describe this? The pros came back from vacation, and they came to an awfully frothy market. And I even think somebody on the site even said that, like, Jim Cramer was saying, this is a frothy market, and they're just taking the froth out of it. I think probably what I see here is that this trade, like, I put on my puts sort of right in here. And we had talked at the end of the summer, I was worried about sort of this big coil being resolved. And then usually on the other side of it, you see some sort of whiplash move down. And I think that's what this is right now. I won't believe that this market is starting to correct in earnest until this confluence of these trend lines is lost. I think probably over the short term, we're probably going to find that this comes into support. And, you know, I was tweeting out earlier, like I said, I think there's a lot of correlation between Bitcoin and NASDAQ, and same sort of thing I've been commenting about Bitcoin. I actually think that technically Bitcoin's still in a bull, right? The institutional moving averages are pointed positively, and all we've done is come back down into them. And we're right at 13 EMA, all that kind of talk. So theoretically, if this is a bull, then these pullbacks into the institutional moving averages actually should be a buying window. So I'm not totally convinced that the NASDAQ has actually quote unquote broken here, or whether this is just sort of, like the pros come back from the Hamptons and they're just doing a bit of position squaring and things just got a little carried away there on the upside. So as a result, I bought this little put option play here. It's, you can see right now it's sitting at 11.62, and I bought it when it was sitting at $12. That's nothing for me to do anything on. This is a March position, and I'm looking for the big dump, and here's the 50% level, or actually 50% level is way up there. This is my strike price on these options. So because the option is so far out of the money, there's really nothing for me to do through all of this. I suppose I could have made the argument, and I was sort of humming and hawing about it, whether I should go and add to the trade on this little 4-hour double bottom here, and that was a tag of the bottom trend line of this descending wedge. Hindsight, of course, is always 20/20, but I'm not really doing anything with this trade, and it's a March position. I won't be doing anything. Full disclosure for everybody, I won't be doing anything on this for quite some time. It's my insurance policy, and it's sitting on the books. And right now, as you can see, I bought it basically here. It's sitting here. That's basically a wash, in my opinion. So hopefully that helps answer that question. Yeah, we did see a bit of a shot across the bow this morning in the stock market. Is this more just the Senate-related issues? And ironically enough, like I said, NASDAQ now is coming back into support. Really, we won't know whether this thing is actually, quote unquote, broken until we actually are on the other side of this. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do something along the lines of down, up. You see the double top. You want to hunt reload zones off of this top. That's fine. And, whatever that counter trend rally is, that's probably if there is going to be a shorting window, that's probably setting itself up now somewhere up in this area here. But until this confluence is broken, I'm not really looking for the massive dump in the stock market just yet. So I don't know. Does that help answer that question? Sorry,
Yeah.
It took me about 20 minutes to answer that. Sorry.
It's great. I love your puts. Is that a weird thing to say?
It's as long as you said puts, right? Okay, I think I have you presenting to everybody.
Okay, great. Let me. Someone tagged me in the lounge with a mention about Chronos, so we're going to pivot to pot stocks quickly. And
actually, I got filled on my pot stocks, my little pot stock trade the other day. This little Calixia, sort of pot stock / crypto stock, and I was reading on the rags today that they were saying that the pot stocks, the pressure's coming off of these things now, eh? Oh yeah, is this thing breaking the new highs here on yours?
Yeah. It's really fascinating because yesterday so if anyone's been paying attention to this saga, there's a group called Citron, and Citron is spearheaded by this guy named Andrew Left, who has quite the attitude. And if you haven't watched his interview on CNBC where he issued a short on Chronos, I suggest you do, because it's a great sort of reality TV show series, because he's on there talking about how Chronos is overvalued. He calls them out for potential fraud, for not disclosing certain things to their investors. And he says that, and he admits on air that he actually shorted the stock before releasing his research. And then he covered some of his puts right after he released his research. So he took profits. And to me, that's not right. And I don't think he should have even announced that on the program. So CNBC invited the CEO of Chronos on yesterday, and he came on, and his demeanor was so professional. The way that he talked about what their plans were, their partnerships, why he couldn't disclose their distribution agreements. And today you see the stock at all-time highs. So I mean, you really have to be careful about, listening to groups like this, and especially on most of these marijuana names. I think that we can just assume that most of these are going to face rip because we're essentially entering a period where prohibition of marijuana is going to end in the United States, and certainly without doubt in Canada on October 17th. So there's going to be a lot of innovation here in the space. And one of the products that he was talking about on air is that they're trying to partner and isolate different cannabinoids, including something called, I think it was THCV or B. I couldn't understand his accent, where essentially if you want to be smoking pot and you don't want to feel hungover the next day or get the munchies from overeating, they can mix in this subtype of a cannabinoid that actually blocks your appetite and doesn't give you the munchies. So I think we're going to see lots of cool stuff like this, where you can almost like, when you go into some of these shops, they'll be like, oh, do you want to smoke something that'll make you energetic, hungry, horny? And it's just like, what? How are you going to offer me something like that? We don't even know how most of these cannabinoids interact in the body. And I think that our subtypes of these cannabinoids really work. We just know that they all work together synergistically. And yeah, so Kurt's saying designer drugs. I think that's probably where the space is headed. And anyone that's getting in there is going to be ahead and pioneering this. So I think you really have to watch for names like this. And with Cronos partnering here, I think they're that type of company. So that's really neat. And then on top of all this, you have tons of these other companies like Tilray. Tilray, for example, is another stock that Citron actually recommended to buy. He said at $26, he loved Tilray, but now they're shorting it because it's at 60, it's at 60 some odd dollars and change. So he's shorting it. I mean, this is the equivalent of somebody coming into crypto and saying, "Oh, Bitcoin's way too expensive at $10,000" when it was riding up to 20. And he's saying, "I've issued a massive short. My company is short, and it's going to go down to $3,000." And then the thing just keeps going and going and going because the market likes to make a fool out of people. Well, I believe Citron is in that seat right now, and they need to be made a fool. And this guy certainly needs to be smacked down and made humble after his interview on CNBC. So just be cognizant that there are people like this out there that issue these warnings. They're taken seriously a few times because they were right. And then it just takes a few times for them to be wrong, and this guy may fade into the background. So how does this information help all of you? Just look at some pot stocks, look for retracements, and I'm personally accumulating as much of these as I can. I did some buying today. I got filled on a couple names, and I guess I should probably let you guys know what those were. I am not long Cronos anymore. After that guy scared me out of my position. So I guess I'm a victim of his fear mongering. But look at what happened here. I mean, this thing really did nothing more than just bounced off of, or didn't even come close to it. 38.2. I guess I should probably double check my fibs to make sure that this is right. And remember, this is like a full range here that I'm taking. So this thing came really close to 38.2, bounced back, and now we're at new highs. So the market really doesn't seem to give a shit about what he said. Maybe we should look at Tilray real quickly. I'm going to assume this is not going to be an easy buy. Sitting at $80, right? I mean, Jesus, look at that thing. That's a parabolic move right there. So nobody should be buying this name. If you're just tuning in here and you're thinking, oh, pot stocks are a great return, I'm going to make lots of money, and I'm going to... Don't buy this thing. This is called, this is nosebleed area, and you really have no business doing that. So let me see. There's one name that I just added, and let's see here. CNAB, that's what it is. And I think this was Jacob. No, this is Nathaniel's name, actually. So Nathaniel brought this to my attention here. And let's see how this is going. So I'm buying reload zones here. This thing popped up initially, and I said that we can't be buyers into this pop because we don't really have any reasons for a trade. So here we are now back in a trading location. We're at 78.6. Full disclosure, I think that I accumulated this at 50 cents. So my stop is down around here. And I just like accumulating these names, kind of like a Nanny Nibbles portfolio. So this is my area into these tails here. So I don't think we have market structure just yet. Interestingly, a gap has been left behind here on today's open. So whatever fits your trading plan. If this doesn't fit it, which it probably shouldn't because there's really no structure, maybe you were buying 78 sixes, that might work, but there's really no, well, I guess you do have this divergence here that activated here, and now we're just coming back down. So it's an interesting name to chew on from the cannabis perspective. This is another name, Kushco, that I also hold. I don't mean to be personally advertising here, Brian, so please cut me off if I'm doing too much on these pot stocks here. But this will actually be the last one that I'll do. This was a nice W into market structure. We got our confirmation on, it looks like this bar here. So I actually just bought the breakout here of this W, and I've been sitting here since I think 460 something here, which is my orange line entry. And we're coming into a level. So I have to make a decision here about whether or not I want to hold this or let it go. Usually I just hold most of these. And I think that's probably what I'm going to do here. It doesn't look like we're losing much on the upside, but it has certainly taken off quite quickly. And if you are looking to get into this, I think it's quite wise to be drawing your reload zones just as we did on the last name. And maybe if I was really active in the market, which I don't think I can be here, I should be letting go some of that position into this area here and looking to re-add when we come back down, probably into my level, which corresponds to 61.8. And there's a gap that was left behind here. And it looks like there's a small one here. So not a bad idea for the Joshes of the gap hunters that adopt the gap strategy to be setting some bids there if this is part of a portfolio that you're building. So I'm going to stop with the pot stocks. Brian, you're still doing it. You still have that one name. Are you accumulating any others, or you're just happy with the name you've got?
The problem is I'm a cheap ass, right? So, you know, spending like hundreds of dollars a share on a stock is an awfully tough pill for me to swallow. But, you know, this United Canada bit sure looks interesting. If we got a nice little inside bar here or something over the next day or two, I might pull the trigger on that. It's not a bad idea. You definitely got location, and yeah, like you had said, there's already a bullish divergence working here. So it's just really a question of do we have any structure to try and help us get in? I'd also say too that, you know, for the next probably 2 or 3 months, I've got to sort of cool my jets. And if anything, we're probably going to get a buy the rumor, then sell the news. I guess the Canadians, their official is supposed to be like middle of October or something like that. So probably look for some sort of pivot through that date window. And if anything, if I'm really lucky on my little this little one that I picked up off the bottom, I can get a free position established by then. But, you know, I'll definitely keep my eyes open. If anybody sees W's, I'm always interested in W's. No doubt about it. You know, this one's trying to put in a W, but it sure is ugly. I sure don't like the risk on that kind of idea, so can't really touch that. So I don't know. I'm watching. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. I kind of like the little sort of crypto proxy, pot proxy. It's sort of a double whammy on this little one. And we'll see how it goes. But I noticed that on my other crypto names, I can't seem to get a fill here, which kind of bums me out. So maybe if anything, we'll see pot stocks catch a bit of a bid here and I can get a free look established on this. That would be awesome. But if there are other names that come down into those sort of windows like that one that you pointed out, I'm definitely receptive. CNAB. The only problem I have, to be honest with you, is I wouldn't mind traveling down to the States, and I have to seriously ask myself, is it worth me taking the chance of buying one of these stocks and some border idiot going, do you own any American pot stocks? And of course, Brian, I have to say yes, just because I'm Canadian. I'm not allowed to be a liar. And so does that mean that I get turned around at the border and they go, fuck you, you're not allowed, you're banned from our country for the next 10 years? So there's that problem that I have. I have a very big reluctance to invest in American pot stocks right now. So
Just invest in the Canadian ones, right?
yeah, well, and like I said, my little funny little VSE name here, Calix. Let's see if I can bang out a double on this thing. All right. So we talked pot stocks. Gold stocks have been keeping a close eye on gold stocks, but I see the gold and silver index broke to new lows yesterday. Newmont's at new lows. All the Canadian companies, they're all floundering against their lows. So I'm not really the biggest advocate of the metal names just yet. What are you seeing in the metal space? Are you still a bull? Are you a bear? Are you neutral? What are you thinking about gold these days?
I think gold is trying to make up its mind, mainly because of the dollar. I have a gold chart up here, and you can see the W played itself out. This divergence now is it's active, but it's coming off a little bit. I think that we're either retesting the neckline here, or this is a top, and we're retesting the neckline of that top, and we're about to roll over. Which direction, I honestly don't know. I'm still leaning bullish personally, just because I don't think this move is finished. But again, gold takes its cues from the dollar. And here we have the dollar popping up, getting knocked back down 2 days in a row. This almost looks like a tweezer top to me right now. And depending on how this finishes the day, I'm going to want to see this trend line broken below again, because we've recaptured it here. And there's really there's a lot of underlying strength to the dollar just because of the way that it dances around Mr. Trump's verbiage. And I think that's what's happened here. So whatever happens in terms of the dollar breaking below that will probably give direction for gold here. If the dollar breaks down, gold will go up. And if the dollar continues its move higher, then we can expect gold to probably make new lows. As of now, again, I'm still a gold bull, which makes me a US dollar bear. And I'm not so certain that the dollar has a direction just yet. I think it's still trying to make up its mind. So that's something we're going to have to keep a close eye on just because of its relationship with gold.
Yeah,
What do you see?
I noticed. I was a little bit surprised, but I suppose, excellent. Please, guys, try and journal this shit. But I think, yesterday coming back, this railroad tracks top, if anything, almost created a liquidity pool for the pros, the whales, the big cats, whatever. I noticed this high is 95.71, and yesterday's high was 95.74. So it's like they went up and they kissed that high and then knocked it back down. And like you said, tweezers there. That's an interesting comment. It sure looks to me like this is pretty heavy resistance on the US dollar. I did see that there was some econs that came out yesterday. I think it was the Institute for Supply Management showed an incredibly very strong reading out of there, like the highest level in a long, long time. So I do understand that helped catch a bid, and if I'm also not mistaken, Mr. Trump's wars on now it appears he's going after Canada here. I see the commodity currencies, Canadian dollars, under a lot of pressure right now. So maybe the Canadian dollar's got to take another leg lower here. It'd actually be interesting to look at the Aussie dollar too and see how they're acting. So yeah, I agree with you there. I think probably this is, we're in a bit of a trading range right now. I was thinking AB equals CD, but it's interesting how they busted that high. So at best now, AB equals CD has to go off of this high now. But in essence, that still paints that 38.2, 93, 64 area as sort of an ultimate objective. I was just, to be honest with you, I was a bit surprised, like I've learned just over the years that the commodity stocks love to lead the commodity. And these commodity, these gold proxies right across the space here, just nobody's happy in this space. So I have a hard time believing that gold is like a new bull market. Actually, here, I got to go present to everyone here, don't I? Sorry, YouTubers, I'm kind of fucking this up. But at the same time, too, we are seeing divergences starting to play out. So, I'll keep a close eye on that. Maybe there's a trade developing here, but I just don't have anything just yet. I was just curious to see what you're thinking about the gold here. So, all right, where should we go next? We took a look at basically tech stocks through our NASDAQ proxy. I suppose we could look at the various tech stocks, but maybe we'll save that for another day. I did find it interesting, just sort of to finish off the thought of the stock market, maybe. If we go to our heat map, notice that where is the heat today? It's in technology. And of course, remember, we talked a bit about sector rotation. And I found it interesting. You can see healthcare here actually looks like it's generally outperforming. It looks to me like the worst part of the market is technology and services and stuff, but the best part of the market is pharma and all that. So if anything, let's keep an eye on Thomas's diabetes drugs and stuff like that. I still think that's the friendliest part of the market right now, but we'll see how it goes. And we should probably, keep an eye on names like Merck and stuff like that to see how they're doing. Yeah, it looks relatively happy. A little bit of an update there. And Pfizer, sector rotation wise, I think these are sort of the area of the market that I think we should be looking for outperformance. And I suppose the last thing we should probably talk about with the stock market is Nike here has decided to weigh in on the political arena, which of course is always dangerous, but at the same time too, there's no such thing as negative advertising, right? So I wonder whether Nike has double topped here. It is a Dow component. You can see the bearish divergence in MACD, and Willie was stupid. So I wouldn't even be surprised if there was like an El Tangonator setup there. But I would imagine if they're getting into the political arena and starting to joust with Mr. Trump, we're probably going to see some fireworks out of Nike here going forward. So TRI SOFers, I see Bobo's in the audience. Raf is going to be helping me with the level 2, level 3 tutorial. And if I'm not mistaken, I think James also said he was going to help me with that. But nonetheless, all you TRI SOFers, you can see that this is just basically a 52-week range. It might be interesting to go look at what a Nike, like maybe a $70 or $75 puts are going at here. See whether maybe a nice little counter trend rally up top. You can see the double top here. It might actually set up an options trade for us. Something like that. And RLZ. So there you can see that would be right basically back up against the original market structure top. So Bobo, let's keep an eye out on Nike here and see if options are starting to look attractive, because I think there's a bit of room here for this thing to come down a bit. All right. Anything in closing in stock market land that you wanted to talk about, or shall we hop on over to crypto?
Let's do crypto.
All right. I suppose I'll sing. We haven't sung the song in a while. Crypto, crypto, or Bitcoin, Bitcoin. Tastes great. Bitcoin, Bitcoin. Are you still a bull? As I had sort of started off today's rant, it looks to me like, and I'm frankly speaking, I'm a bit surprised. This is probably one of the first times I've seen where Mountain Man wasn't hit. So, I mean, it does happen. I suppose the guy does miss trades every once in a while, but I was a little surprised we didn't hit the 7,500 level. And we've pulled back now into institutional support and into these lows. Wicks and tails like to be eaten. Hopefully, can you guys all see? I mean, gee whiz, this is such a great analogy of this. You guys ever heard me talk about candle body lows as great trade location? Look at that. I mean, the market's just basically sitting right on that bloody level. Absolutely incredible. Actually, what am I showing? Oh, I'm showing Thomas's screen. Sorry, everybody. Anyway, I just pointed out there's the candle bodies lows. So, yeah, I know, Jamie. I'm sure. Just give me a second. All right, there we go. See, now the screen's over there. So, such a good example. Market comes down into institutional moving averages. into the candle body lows, and we're just parked right there. And then what I found doubly interesting, of course, is when you look at the lower time frames, that just so happens to be this crazy thing we call the reload zone. So, I can completely understand some people, some traders, and more advanced traders are like, you know what, I trade 78.6s. I'll risk to a break of this low. That's just the type of guy I am. I also understand too that there are site members that are like, well, Brian, that's pretty high anxiety. I need to see a little bit more evidence that maybe a bottom has come in. So I'm going to wait for signs of divergence, and I'm going to wait for signs of W's, and maybe Willie's stupid. And those people, they're just cooling their jets right now. But long and short of it here is, based on the daily price chart, I think we're coming into an area where we should be concentrating if you are interested in hunting longs. Really, at this point, I'm just sort of sitting on the fence, just going, okay, how are you going to play your hand? And as I sort of said earlier, and then I'll finish this thought and then release the Thomas. We could potentially have a massive fractal fire here, but it's going to be predicated on, since this was the higher high yesterday, it's going to be predicated on the market taking out this low tomorrow. So considering we still have basically about 8 or 9 hours to go in today, I don't know whether I would get too wrapped up in whatever the low that is printed this morning is. If anything, and the rest of today, we probably need to let this finish itself out and then watch this low really closely tomorrow. And I'd also probably would imagine we're probably coming into like 38.2s now at some point here. Let's see. Yeah, there's 38.2, which happens to be right against that low. So we could still see a little bit more games here through the rest of today. And then let's see where that low prints tomorrow. And then if we lose that fractal top, then 38.2 loss, blah, 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 blah. We're back in the shit. So that's sort of my thoughts here. What do you see in Mr. Bear?
Yeah, today was quite a pullback. I got a little echo. Thank you. So 4-hour chart for me has just been so embedded and overbought that this was like a rising wedge. And I mean, I kept trying to fire off shorts here, and I just kept getting rejected and my stops being hit. But into last night, I mean, the 4-hour there was really no clean entry here across any of the time frames. It was just like, even if you go down to the 15-minute, it just came online. And I'm here on the left coast, and I was able to stay up through London kill zone. But I mean, nothing really happened through that. It was just a kind of like a quiet non-event. And then New York kill zone came on a couple hours early, and then this thing just went woof. So as far as what I'm seeing now, I mean, as Brian said, we're coming into a zone here from the shorter range. The question is, do we continue lower? And from where I'm seated, the 4-hour has now finally been relieved of its overbought condition. But that's not to say that the dumps are over, right? Because we've now confirmed this larger divergence, which was this, which, initially we had this pullback, which didn't really give us much of a profit target. And then we created this bearish divergence that, again, continued higher and kind of invalidated itself. And now we've got this longer bearish divergence, which is now active after the dump. So you really have to be careful about kind of looking for long positions right now, just because this needs time to play itself out. So in my opinion, once we get the signal that this is finished, which will be a resolution of this MACD cluster, which will start to come back positive. And again, we like to count 4 8s and 12s for our MACD divergences, or for at least our MACD clusters. This one's just getting started. So do we need to come all the way back down for Willie? I don't know. That's not the question you should be asking. The question you should be asking is, does this need to go all the way down to 38.2 of the larger range before continuing higher? Or is this just a nice, easy pullback that doesn't reach 38.2 like the last time? I generally take past price action to dictate how I want to play the market going forward. Now, this has certainly dumped more violently than it did before, so I'm a lot more hesitant to be buying here without market structure. I think that if this does want to reverse, it's just going to stop here like it did, like, hitting a brick wall, kind of like that Roadrunner GIF, where that red candle comes in, it just smacks against the wall and stops the market. That's what we want to see if we're a bull. So 4-hour, I think, has a bearish setup on it. I would, if I wanted to play this continuing downward, I would just open up a short here and risk to 38 as a target of 38.2, and my stop would just be to any of these highs here. So I think that the hourly is showing us a breakdown. This still has about 13 minutes left, so any kind of potential market structure bottom that would come in on the hourly is now going to be invalidated from a candle body perspective, and I kind of have a reason to go short now after this confirms here, just from using market structure and then that 4-hour divergence. Now, the thing that kind of concerns me is that on the hourly, this move is getting old. We still have a little bit more to go, and I like to use Willie as a barometer for that. And even my indicator is now swimming very, very deep into bear territory. So maybe this thing does need to hit that higher time frame 38.2 mark before picking itself up off the glass like a fly getting swatted. And that's kind of what I'm thinking.
A nice press of those lows might even set up your hourly bull div now finally.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, Brian said we might be coming into levels, and if you look at the daily, kind of makes sense. I think that this has certainly shocked the market a bit as everyone was, rah, rah, bull. But really, is this going to give our altcoins a chance to shine and start to pick themselves up off the ground?
I don't know. You look at Ethereum, and Ethereum looks like a train wreck right now.
Yeah, I actually played Ethereum through a short. I kept commenting last night. I said, how many M's do you want as an excuse to go short here? And I've been sitting on this short for a while because, right up here, this thing never got a chance to stop me out over the last few days. So I'd been sitting pretty on a short from the 290s area. And I mean, it just kept emming and kept emming. And then finally this thing broke. So on this one, I was able to hit about, I think I got 218% profit on a 20x leverage short that I kept adding to.
God, dude, fucking
so this was a great trade for me.
The bear scores again.
Yeah. I took this one off the table at 250, so I missed a big shot downward here to 240, and this thing looks like it's continuing lower. So in my opinion, I think this thing still needs to work its way lower. I don't think it's logical to be hunting, or at least knife catching, rather.
Check out my screen just for a moment here. This is the tether proxy. There's another big fat M coming in here. We've lost this key low now on Ethereum. So we have new lows there. And then, of course, and it just again is driving me crazy. But guess what's just working away here?
Yeah. What did we say on Monday? We brought that Ethereum Bitcoin chart up, and I said, I don't know, this thing's making new lows again. And here we go.
Look at that, eh? Ay, caramba. This, you see where the bot target is.
So, Brian, you called the seasonality for the shitstorm known as Ethereum right now. So when's the seasonality over?
January 1st.
Oh, God.
This can take quite a while to play out, guys. And, so the worst part about this is, especially all the new people to trading and stuff like that. This is, we came out of August of 2014, and I remember everybody was sort of like, okay, yeah, we bottomed. Okay, everything's fine. And then we had to go through that fall, and that fall was just a train wreck. So I don't know whether Bitcoin can weather the storm here and it holds in, but Ethereum right now, seasonality has the wind at its face, and you can see a lot of these coins that enjoyed these rallies in one day. They're just taking these back, and a lot of these names that never even W'd, they're just getting ripped here. So it could be a little bit of a tough slog. You know, I did throw on the OMG. I will be fully prepared to walk away from this trade if we break these lows. You can see I was feeling pretty positive and in the money last night, and now we're back underwater. Boo, hiss, hiss, boo. But it's a trader's life, guys. I mean, get used to it. If you play W's, 60, 70% of the time they happen. And that means 30 to 40% of the time, you've got to be prepared to get stopped out. Jamie also points out on the YouTube page, BTC historically performs best from mid-October. So, I think that the Ethereum conference, that's sort of when I would expect that Ethereum would start to melt down. And I see on Thomas's screen that we're breaking the new lows as we speak here. So, as we said a moment ago, let's see where the hell this daily candle finally wants to print here. Maybe if we're lucky, we're building in some divergences now on the flush of those lows from this morning. Yeah, I do see MACD and I do see OBV divergences coming in here. So let's watch how this plays out here. So a bit of a tough morning in crypto, that's for sure, no doubt about it. All right, so yeah, and there goes Ethereum, just broke it. Oh, but look at the little divs now that are finally starting to come in now here. Actually, that's kind of cool that we mentioned that just a moment ago. I'm looking at Thomas's screen here. I think we're showing you on the YouTube page, Thomas. So,
Okay.
What are you seeing here?
Yeah, I mean, we just made new lows. I'm not so sure that this MACD div is going to come in just yet. If this continues its downward pressure, then that's going to be invalidated. But sure, it's valid right now. So keep a watch on this. If this does
potential divergence.
Yeah, totally.
That's
big
the absolute most we can call this right now is just potential.
Yes, very important to mention that. So, yeah, I mean, this looks like crap. It's breaking down. Let's flush out all the weak hands. Let's start putting out news articles that, oh, we're institutions and we're not interested in this anymore. So Goldman Sachs did just that. Oh, we sidelined our plans for a crypto trading desk. We don't know what we're going to do with that. And they're citing regulatory gray areas as the reason for why they're not putting their trading desk or opening up their crypto trading desk, but they are using their own money to trade Bitcoin futures products from the CBOE and CME. They wanted to be trading themselves through crypto directly, but again, that was put on hold. And the Circle product that they partnered with, that's still supposedly in development. But I think that it makes sense that the institutions are coming out and just like, well, we're not so excited about crypto anymore. And really behind the scenes, they're feverishly working on whatever it is they want to get live. Because
I mean, and these kind of headlines make no sense because Goldman Sachs owns Polo. So they technically have a full operational crypto trading desk. I'm not quite sure why they're trying to play this shell game here with people.
Well, I think they're just to clarify, I think they're just trying to differentiate that they want to be using clients' funds that invest in, that they are given to trade with to buy and sell crypto directly through Goldman Sachs. And I think the problem they have is using those client funds to trade on the exchange itself and directly trading cryptocurrency that way. I think they wanted to kind of bring cryptocurrency directly to Goldman Sachs as opposed to through Polo. But who knows what they're really doing behind the scenes. You're probably 100% right that they could just do this all through Polo. But they need to be kind of politically correct, if you will, to the public to make it seem like they're playing the game properly. Otherwise, they'll have the SEC and that guy over there breathing down their neck faster than anyone could count.
Right. And it should just be common knowledge, everybody. Kind of a fun assignment if you feel like Brian's assignment for the day. Go and find Goldman Sachs's research report where they advise clients to buy Bitcoins at $1,100 back in 2013. So Goldman Sachs has been in this space an awfully long time. And don't kid yourself when if anything, these news headlines are perfect example where you know, they're going to put out news headlines to try and, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they, you know, were very interested in the short side of the market and they wanted to short, like I had mentioned, I think I mentioned just before I started my rant in earnest. We had come into a very normal trade location for people that trade the futures markets. So I wouldn't be surprised if Goldman wanted to short and shorted, and then they're like, okay, now we need some ammunition to get this thing really going. I know, let's put out a report saying we're putting the trading desk on hold. When they've had a trading desk all along, right? But anyway. Okay, so long and short of it here, we are definitely backing off from our recent peaks on the Bitcoin price. Ethereum is pressing its lows. A lot of the recent bottoms that we've seen in the Tether names are being tested as we speak. It's interesting how Jamie sort of mentioned that we should maybe use this pullbacks in crypto to keep an eye on the various different crypto stocks that we might be interested. I noticed the American ones, they're soft. You can see they're coming down. The Canadian ones looks like they're coming off a bit here. This DPW Holdings, though, still very strong here. So hopefully, as you had said, Jamie, if we're lucky, we can get a bit of softness in and I'm not sure if I'm showing the right screen. Sorry, guys. That's the screen I guess I should be showing. Maybe we can get, you know, the softness in yeah, I've got Hive on here. There's Hive right there coming back down into support here. So I see what you're seeing, Jamie. So let's keep an eye on this. Let's see if we can get some sort of inside bar or some sort of pivot off of these lows. But I see what you're seeing there, Jamie. I think that makes sense. All right. So what else can we tell these good people here before we head off into the sunset? It is top of the hour. I suppose I'll just mention I did, you know, with the new double bottoms coming in, I did, and I got to go present to everyone here. Sorry about that, guys. I did actually get filled on a name or two. I guess it was off of this screen. I'm not quite sure which screen I had here. I got filled on, what did I get filled on? I got filled on a stink bid on, so I think it was CVC. Yeah, CVC. So just so that you guys know, I do put my money where my mouth is. And we talked a little bit about this one backing up into a buying window. And I had a stink bid working off the 78.6, and I got filled on this morning. So I am in there participating in the market. This is an example of little old lady Nanny Nibbles trade. I threw 0.03 BTC at this. So certainly not betting the farm, but I do want to force myself to be an accumulator of these names down at the bottom end of the ranges. So this one happened to put in a W about a week or so ago. And you can see that it's basically right back against its old lows. There was the W. And so I went through a bid in off of 78.6. So I did do a little bit of buying here, and there was another name that I was touting here recently that I'd be more than happy to be a buyer, and same sort of logic, threw in my bid off of the 88.6 in the gap level here on Alex's coin. So on this weakness, I will actually be a buyer of some of these names. And really, to me, it's just business as usual. I got to wait for the market structure bottoms, then get my bids working to buy back positions that I sold up top. All right. Anything else you've got on the brain this morning that you'd like to share with these good people, Mr. Bear, or shall we call it a day?
We got to start remembering that OKCoin contract, 3-month contract expiration is happening at the end of the month. So that means the 2-week will officially start rolling. It'll roll over into the 2-week on September 14th. So I
Hmm.
think that what's going to happen here is whoever went long through
Sorry.
here is probably trying to unwind their positions if they didn't already do it up here. So someone's getting scared into this reload zone. They're starting to take profits. But in my opinion, I think the smart money who has gone long through here realizes we probably need to get back up into this area before this expiration. So I think this is just kind of someone running for the exits. But I think I'm going to very much be putting emphasis on my timing for a move up into this reload zone here between 75.62 and 8,000. I think is the true number that people are going to want to try and exit from their contract longs into that expiration. So just keep that in mind. We're going to start entering more volatile areas of the market as we get closer and closer to that September 14th date, which is, I think it's September 14th, which is when the 2-week contract gets rolled, the quarterly contract gets rolled into the 2-week contract. And then people are going to be scrambling to close out into September 28th, which is the official end of that quarterly contract. But again, people start unwinding their positions 2 weeks prior to that. So just keep that in mind as we're going forward, that anyone who has gone long down there, are probably trying to exit between 61.8 at 7,500 and 8,000. So interesting levels to watch. Will they get the market up there? We'll tune in to find out.
So, what are you guys talking about? What's the symbol for that Bitcoin diamond? Is that BTC? What?
Yeah, I showed a chart for Bitcoin Diamond because one of the news sites ran an article that Bitcoin Diamond surged 200% as volume explodes by 5,900. But if you take the
Ouch.
BTCB, BTC, it's gotten crushed. But I think Bitcoin Diamond itself is
Look at
supposed
that
to.
mess. Ouch. Oh man. All right. So just be cognizant of this is definitely the kind of environment that we're in, guys. Go slowly here. If anything, I hear a lot of people saying altcoins are going to zero. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these sort of, I don't know if this is what the sort of official title of these things are. Is this an ERC20 and all that kind of stuff? I don't know about that, but unless your name has been well vetted, be prepared. There's going to be stories like this down the pike here. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. It's a fork. All right. So this is a fork that got stuck. Um, okay. So, there's your summary for the day. Obviously, every day can't be a big rip roaring up day, which kind of sucks. And some days we're going to go through this. Those people that are practicing their trading plans and practicing, intraday setups, I am liking the idea now on this dip. If we start seeing divergences and stuff, maybe we're going to be setting something up. The people that did, I even talked about this earlier, the people that did take the 78.6 blindly here, now they're basically sitting right at their purchase levels. Now let's watch for divergence. If this divergence can come in, then we actually have the case where, hey, maybe we are going to pivot off of this institutional level. Still very early. Thank you, Raf, for that Nike information. I'll take a look at that through the day, and maybe we'll do something up for tomorrow's offering. All right, I think I'm done for the day. Binance is the only exchange is down. Every other exchange is up. Odd. All right, thanks, Da Vinci. I appreciate that. All right, why don't we leave it at that? Was there anything else you wanted to? Oh yeah, one thing I wanted to mention was, and it kind of explained what I saw on the spreads. I was wondering why the spreads had come back to zero. But if the futures or forwards, I think we call them forwards now, is going to expire and that 3 month is no longer the 3 month, then it actually kind of makes sense to me that they would square this up here a little bit and then take away a lot of the premium. So yeah, we've got another thing to watch out for here for the beginning of the year, so, or I guess beginning of the new month, with a new contract. Okay, why don't we leave it at that? Was there anything else you wanted to add, Thomas, or are you done?
I guess we can call it a day.
All right, why don't we leave it at that? You guys have yourselves an awesome rest of your day. I'm going to head off and talk algos with Amory. So have yourselves an awesome rest of your day. Let's keep our focus. Make sure everybody knows what their number one job is. We just got to slug through this until the bull is back in town. And then we can go back to making sick ass, crazy ass money. But for the time being, it seems we're back into sort of conservative mode. All right, everybody, have yourselves a great day. All the best, and bye for now.